to Knicks Buzz with CT, joined by the one and only Mark Berman. Right, it's great to get Mark's thoughts on the playoffs and the end of the season and this matchup with Philadelphia. Mark, how are you doing?
Doing great, CT. It's this is the great time of year for all NBA fans. So many sports fans ignore the regular season and then start tuning into every game now. And this is the only time I ever miss my old job. That 82 game regular season is a real slog, and then to get to this moment, this is why we got into the profession.
It certainly is, and yeah, it's no better time to be a fan. I could see that fan in you still enjoy it. But to get to where we're at, Mark, just briefly summarize your thoughts on the Knicks' close to the season, getting that 50 wins and the second seed.
Another fantastic regular season by Tom Thibodeau, who might be the best regular season coach in NBA history. The guy can motivate a team for 82 games. Not every head coach can do that. Of course, some coaches hold back purposely with load management. Tom, even in that final game, there were some fans saying, "Oh, maybe we should not win it." But Tom gets them going every single game, and let's see what happens if they still have that grit and juice and energy in the postseason. But fantastic job by Thibodeau, not coach of the year, but to do it with all those injuries, they held firm. And when OG came back, again, as my Twitter followers remind me almost every other day, their record, what is 20-3 when he's in the lineup. He did miss like 26 or 29 games, but they got the second seed, so that's worthless now. Let's see OG do it in the playoffs. They look great with him. That extra defensive component that they really didn't have last season against Miami. And then, of course, they didn't make the playoffs 2 years ago, but against Atlanta, they just were not sharp. Not having Julius Randle, listen, their record is pretty much the same with him or without him, it seems. Without Julius, it seems to open up the door for Jalen to just go crazy. He's got so much more room and space and confidence when Julius is not around. So, listen, as someone mentioned, if the Knicks get another injury, missing Randall will feel you'll feel it. But right now, they got chemistry. This NBA game is about chemistry. And as good as Julius Randle is, they have still great chemistry without him. They may be a better defensive team, maybe not as great a rebounding team, but they're so gritty. They get boards. Josh Hart, at that power forward position at times is getting rebounds, and Mitchell's back, and Harshenstein is a fantastic rebounder and gritty player. So I'm not worried about the defensive grit.
Yep, you said it. And in terms of the matchup, before I get your predictions and we talk about the Philly matchup, before that, and it was the Heat or Philly, in your eyes, do you think there was a more favorable matchup if you're the New York Knicks?
Well, in truth, before Butler sprained his knee, I thought Miami would have been a tougher matchup. Also, a mental edge for Miami, having eliminated them last season, all that great playoff experience that Miami has. But as the game unfolded and as it turned out, the Knicks get a bad break with Philly. Another reason why Miami would have been a tougher opponent at one point was because you didn't know about Embiid, and you still don't know if he's 100%. He's listed as questionable. Think it's a gamesmanship thing. I'm sure he'll play. But in that first half, he did not look good. He's still getting the rust off. But down that stretch, he had a giant offensive rebound, hit a couple of big threes. He's still a very clutch player, but the Knicks do not. They draw the short straw with getting the Sixers as a first round matchup after their great regular season netted them the second seed.
Yeah, it's just the way the chips fall sometimes. And in previewing the matchup, Mark, I want to start with the top, with the coaches, Nick Nurse versus Tom Thibodeau. Tibbs was able to get the better of Bickerstaff in the first round last season, and coach a masterclass in defense, rebounding toughness, grittiness. How can you see Thibs going up against Nick Nurse with
That's a
all
great,
his time to plan?
yeah, great question. Honestly, Nick Nurse is a great coach, and you saw it. I covered the NBA Finals. He had a great defensive game plan against the Warriors. I think he's going to have some tricks up his sleeve against Jalen Brunson. Uh, Thibodeau's a great coach, great motivator in the regular season, as we suggested. His X's and O's offensively has never been fantastic. Uh, it's a tough coaching matchup. I think that's one of the reasons why the Sixers, have a real shot in this series. I think Nick Nurse is one of the most underrated coaches. I'm not sure if every casual sports fan has heard of Nick Nurse and what he did in Toronto. Uh, Thibodeau, again, he's a defensive mastermind. He's always on top on the players to play defense. But this is the playoffs. Everyone's playing defense now, and that's what happens with Thibodeau teams. They have more intensity during the regular season, but then it's matched in the postseason when every team is going all balls out.
Well, that's what a lot of people are saying, yeah. But look, where I see the Knicks getting an advantage, Mark, is they've got more defenders on their team, more guys willing to do it. Yes, Embiid is a hell of a defender. Maxi, Tobias Harris, not known for their defense. Kelly Oubre, I think, could be a big factor in this series. He did guard Jalen Brunson quite a bit. And in terms of players, like who is the biggest key to the series? Do you feel? Obviously, Jalen Brunson's finished the season in the All NBA first team conversation. He's garnering MVP votes as well.
Well, listen, the Sixers on paper have more talent. The Knicks have more depth and more defensive grit. There's no doubt about it. They have more defenders. But you mentioned Oubre, another name, another great name, very long wing defender. And I'm sure Nurse is going to throw Oubre at Jalen. Tobias Harris has never been a great defender, but again, he's an offensive player, a 3-point shooter. You talk about the X factor. I read Fred Katz's very long piece on the five keys to the series. Dante's name was never mentioned, and I had a tweet recently that did not go well with the Knicks fans, saying, this is the first time that Dante is a key figure in the playoffs. He's never had that role before. Yeah, he's been in the NCAA tournament, but in the NBA, he's never had a big role in the playoffs, and he's averaging 5.9 points per game in the playoffs. So the lights are now at its brightest. Let's see what Dante could do. He's a huge key, and he's got to pour in those 3-pointers. That's what killed them against the Heat. They just couldn't score enough. I think Dante's got to be a monster in this series. If he's a monster in this series, the Knicks win. Because I just don't think that the Sixers. Listen, Maxey, very underrated player, but I think the Knicks will have enough offensive firepower if Dante is playing as well as he has across the last couple of months.
Yeah, well said. I think the floor spacing is obviously going to be key because they're going to have to blitz Brunson, you think, at some point. But got to get your thoughts on your man, OG Anunoby, right? Ever since that trade, 20-3, right? Do you have any words to describe what you've seen from OG in terms of his impact on the team? And as we last spoke, you said it was a trade for the future.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens in the playoffs. But listen, if OG is hitting a few 3-pointers to go along with his sturdy defense, then it's better than having Quickly and RJ Barrett on the floor. OG affects the game without touching the ball. Again, he'll be huge in terms of double teaming Joel Embiid, possibly even on a one-on-one matchup. He's got length. Uh, Again, he's Mr. Intangible. He's Mr. Defense. It's the X factor the Knicks haven't had in the recent couple of years. They traded for Cam Reddish that time. Leon Rose was envisioning that type of uh, combo forward who could play multiple positions and score the ball from the 3-point line and defend like crazy. It didn't work out, but it has so far with OG when he's been on the court. Now let's hope his elbow, he'll have to play hurt. And, Bondi had that wonderful story that from sources saying that OG doesn't like to play hurt. When I found out it was just tennis elbow in the relapse with OG, I was a lot more confident that it's going to work out because tennis elbow, you just need rest. And there's pain, but you can play through it with a sleeve. So I don't think there's a major issue with his elbow, but he's got to stay healthy during this 7 game series.
Yeah, he had one of his biggest games in Philly as well. So yeah, great to hear you. Think that he'll have a big say on this series. Now, what are your thoughts on the result? There's been a lot of debate. Who should be favourite? Is Philly the real 2 seed in this one? I think the betting has it very even. Maybe not even able to split the teams. How do you see this series playing out?
Yeah, listen, in Vegas and the internet sports books, the Sixers started off as a slight favorite, much to my great surprise. But that's evened out a little bit once the betting started. I feel the Knicks, should be slight favorites only because Embiid is still not 100%. He's listed as questionable. Again, think it's gamesmanship. I think he's going to play, and I don't think he's 100%. But there could be a scenario where he gets, as the series goes along, he gets the rust off and he starts playing better, and he wears down the Knicks. And they figure out every little defensive scheme that the Knicks will throw at him. So uh, I don't know if you asked my prediction, but Embiid is still the best player on the court, and a lot of time, and Maxey is the most underrated player in the NBA. He could light it up on any given night and hit close to 40 points on a great night. So, on paper, again, I said before, the Sixers have more talent. I'm picking them in 7. I'm picking the Sixers in 7. I'm wondering about if Mitchell Robinson is going to be a dominant factor. I still have some concerns about if Dante is going to bring 20 plus points every night. Josh Hart at power forward. It's worked out so far, but again, they don't have a real power forward depth. Uh, so I see the Sixers game 7, Embiid winning it for the Philadelphia Sixers with a couple of big plays in the final minute of a great, great series. I hope I'm wrong, but that's my prediction if I
Yeah.
had to lay some money down.
No, we hope you're wrong, but no, look, it's a very honest prediction. I think Philly, it's going to be a tough series. I see it going 6 or 7. Uh, obviously love the Knicks to close it out in 5, and that'll mean probably no Embiid for a few games if the Knicks would do win it in 5. But look, Jalen Brunson, I feel Mark has proven this season that he can be the best player on the court, even in this kind of matchup with Embiid because he has no health concern over him. So, what do you
Well,
think for the Knicks to win the series? What do you have to see from a Brunson?
Well, you did mention something about no health concern. Listen, I think he played 77 games, and that's great, but he gets hurt. I mean, there's going to be a lot of physical attention on him, and he's not the biggest guy on the planet. And that wonderful New York Post back page today, Jalen versus Goliath, said it all. I mean, he's a small man. And, I know Becky Hammond had a line about he's too small to be a great player, and that is inaccurate. But I wonder about his health. In fact, in the preseason, I was concerned about his durability coming off that World Cup. It's been a long, long season. This is a 7 game grind. This is not the regular season anymore. You face the same defensive matchups every single night, and if Jalen doesn't wear down and he's great every night, I think the Knicks have a real, real shot. If Jalen is if he looks like a first team All NBA player in this series, the Knicks probably win. But again, he's gotten hurt before, and if he's less than 100% and the Sixers do some things differently against him, I think the Sixers have a shot to squeak this one out.
And one underrated X factor on each team.
Underrated X factor. Well, here's one underrated thing: the Sixers don't have a lot of depth. The Knicks have a lot of depth. I mean, down to Miles McBride that they could throw out there for some frenzied defense. Uh, I think if Mitchell's healthy, what a great center tandem. The Sixers just cannot match up depth wise. And I think that is a big advantage for the Knicks in terms of an underrated thing that maybe not a lot of people are talking about. Uh, but again, the Mitchell Robinson thing, he hasn't, he admitted his conditioning is not great. I know Instagram, his trainer is posting stuff about whipping Mitchell into great shape. But I do believe that Mitchell was fantastic against the Cavaliers in round one last year, but we're not going to see the same Mitchell, and that hurts the Knicks. He's an underrated X factor. If Mitchell is looking like he did against Cleveland, and does things against Embiid, this could be over shorter, quicker than a lot of people think.
Yeah, I agree. I have Mitch as one of my X factors as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, great to get your thoughts, Mark. And I'll be watching the series closely. I know you will be too. I know
Yes.
you're probably hoping for that Miami matchup because you got have squeezed into the building, right?
I was definitely the Palm Beach Post I write for, and a Knicks Miami first round series. I was definitely going to be there, and I haven't been in the same building as the Knicks since I retired. So it would have been a big thrill to cover that series, but maybe in the conference finals.
Yep, that's right. Maybe we'll talk to you
Probably
then.
not though. Miami is. I don't know if Miami's getting past tonight without Butler. Rozier is hurt, and Duncan Robinson is not 100%. So it's going to be a different type of playoff run this time for the Miami Heat.
Yeah, but no, it's always good to talk to you, and I know you're missing, the biggest action of the season towards the end. You know, the 82 game season is a grind. I'm glad that it's over,
Yeah.
and we get to talk about the real thing now. And can the Knicks make history and go further than they did more than 10 years ago? Remains to be seen, but they're going to give it a big shake. They're going to give it a big crack, and this could be Tom Thibodeau's best coaching season.
Yes, I mean, again, his postseason. Tom Thibodeau has not been a great playoff coach. 51 years without a title. This team's built to win it now. It's not like I know they have a lot of draft picks, but they're going to trade those draft picks for maybe another player. But this roster is not about. This is not a young roster. They're not. No one's getting any better because they're getting older and better. Everyone's in their prime. It's time to win it all, either this season or next season. Julius Randle or no Julius Randle.
Yep, that's right. Who do you think could be at the top in terms of off-season acquisition?
I mean, obviously, they have all these draft picks that they have to, use in a big trade. And I still, in my heart, feel that Donovan Mitchell is going to get out of Cleveland, especially if the Cavaliers do not fare well in the playoffs this year again. And so that bears watching for Knicks fans to see how the Cavaliers do. Uh, he wants to be here. The Knicks have the draft picks to make a deal. Unfortunately, they don't have Grimes. I'd like to take back that trade. Grimes was a piece. He was a young piece that had some trade value, and I didn't think they got enough out of that. But Donovan Mitchell is still going to be talked about as joining the Knicks at shooting guard to play alongside Jalen. And then Dante, you still have Dante. I mean, that would be a lot of firepower. Let's see what happens in the playoffs and see what they really need when all the chips are in the middle of the table.
Yeah, I think Donovan will still be available, but I just don't know if the Knicks' interest is going to be what it once was. But fascinating stories, and let's talk soon, Mark. Be well.
Thanks so much, CT. You do a great job as usual.